Cooper back, and you still got one of the best running backs in the game, and you still have Stafford, who's obviously, in an admirable position, no pun intended, but he can get it done. The defense is a little wishy-washy, but it's not like they're a terrible team at this point, and they're one of the only teams I see actually on the uprise. So interesting.
Yeah, we'll get into it in a bit, but we're on a not losing streak right now, and the Vikings are. So we know where my pick's headed, but I'd be happy to jump into this and talk more on it.
Yeah, so we've got Minnesota tonight, favored in this one by 3, even though they're playing in LA, over under 48. So they are expecting some fireworks to be shot off tonight. A lot of scoring. If you've got some fantasy players in this one, I used to have Parkinson, but since the arrival or the coming back of Cooper Kupp, Nacua, I think he's going to be less of a target, so end up dropping him. But we could talk about fantasy some other time. But we've got the Vikings at 5-1. We've got the Rams at 2-4. My pick, I know which way you're going. You probably know which way I'm going. I'm going to go strictly when I say these games is I'm going to just go off the spread. So based on the spread, here's what I like. I like the Vikings to cover the 3. I think that they do have a little bit more potent offense, even with the pieces that the Rams did get back. And I also like the under 48. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game. 48's a little bit on the higher end. I think both of these teams have the capability at this point to put up big points. I just don't think that's what's going to happen. I mentioned Kyren Williams before. The Vikings have Aaron Jones, both very good running backs. I think either one of these teams is going to end up just kind of running it out and seeing if they can, win with the run or run with the win.
Either way that goes, absolutely. You got to get the run game activated. Darnold has benefited from the fact that he's had a veteran running back to support him. He has Justin Jefferson. He has other receivers that he can hit. So he's not struggling as far as assets to hit. I said earlier, I'm not high on Darnold. Kind of amazed he's made it this far. Even if I weren't a Rams fan, I still would pick the Rams over the Vikings on this. We talked about Cooper Kupp and Nacua being back activated. So do they get the same 100% role that they were anticipated at this point in the season? Like I said, I want Nacua to sort of rest up a little bit and use him sparingly. I do have him in one of my fantasy rosters, which is painful to say. But if we need him, we can use him. But we have Kyren Williams to run the ball if necessary. But the Rams definitely have to get their defense to stay focused as well for the whole game.
Yeah, the excitement is definitely on your side versus the Vikings. You mentioned it before. The Vikings are coming off of kind of a heartbreaking loss to the Lions. The Rams are getting a couple of pieces back. More excitement on that front line. I could absolutely see that winning going either way. But hey, my pick is my pick, and there we go.
You're entitled to it, man.
There we go. All right, getting off Thursday. Let's get into the Sunday games. No teams have a bye this week. I didn't mention that yet. So every team is going to be playing. We've got 16. We've got a full slate, 16 games. Nobody's playing overseas anymore, so you don't have to worry about setting your lineups fantasy-wise at 8 o'clock in the morning, which I missed out on last week. But, whatever. I was going to have D'Ernest Johnson in my flex spot, but that didn't happen. I didn't wake up in time. But getting on to the noon games, if you're Central Time like I am, we've got the New York Jets at the New England Patriots. Probably the worst game of the weekend. The Jets coming off another loss, 2-5. And the Patriots coming off of their 5th loss in a row after winning their home opener. And the Jets are favored by 7 with a relatively low-scoring game. What they're looking at as an over-under of 41. Who do you like in this one, Nick?
Yeah, as you said, probably the worst matchup of the week, collectively 3-11. That's really not a great look. But here we are talking about a long-forgotten Patriots that of old, and you've got just the Jets. So their star quarterback is about as old as the collective entire offense on the Patriots. So I'll go with the Jets on this matchup, but this game is not interested in it at all. It's very lackluster for me.
I could not agree with you more. And if I had asked people who don't follow the NFL which team do you think their coach has already gotten fired? They might not have gone with the New York Jets, but I think I hear some rumbling in the New England Patriots organization as far as, did we make a mistake with Gerard Mayo, which I had said in the beginning of the year, I thought it was a mistake. I thought it was a rush. They could have brought back someone like Mike Vrabel, who I think could have done a better job with that New England team. But hey, c'est la vie. You made your bed and sleep in it. I agree, though. Basically, I think the Jets are going to win this game. I think they're still getting acclimated to the Devontae Adams thing. They got Hassan Riddick back in practice this week, so I'm sure he'll play a part on that defense. The defense looked absolutely terrible last week. I don't think that's going to be the case this week against rookie Drake May. So I like the Jets in this game. I just don't see the Jets by 8. And that's my thing here. And I've actually got the under highlighted here as well. It's only 41 points, but I'm just not, both of these teams, if you had to say what's better for each one of these teams, the offense or the defense is actually the better part of both of these teams at this point. So I like the under on the 41. I think the Patriots stick within 7. I don't think it'll be by that much. I think it'll be 4, 6, something like that. But I do believe the Jets will win outright.
Yeah, I'm seeing like an 18-12 final score on this. This is going to be very, it's going to lack a lot of talent here.
Yep, absolutely. All right, moving on from the boring, we'll get into a very lopsided game. We've got the Tennessee Titans at the Detroit Lions. And again, those Lions coming off a big win to tie the Minnesota Vikings in the NFC North for number 1 in that division. And Tennessee going in the exact opposite direction, getting rid of DeAndre Hopkins because, their offense is, better without it somehow. Will Levis throwing the ball around, not making a big impact. DeAndre Hopkins on the sideline of Tennessee last week, not looking very happy that he wasn't involved 100%. So I'm sure that there were some conversations about getting him out of there, or maybe they just wanted to keep him safe. These things take time, right? They traded him to the Chiefs. I'm sure this conversation has been going on for a couple of weeks here. What can the Chiefs, what do they have to give up to get DeAndre Hopkins? They've had wide receiver issues. That's no secret. But what do you think about this matchup? You got Tennessee traveling to Detroit.
Yeah, I don't think this is a tough decision. Obviously, I think we're both going to agree on the Lions here, unless you throw a crazy Hail Mary here on the back end. But the Lions are coming off of a big win, as you mentioned. They're now tied for first place, which kind of we were surprised that the Vikings were doing so well. But they had a big win. They engaged Amon-Ra a lot more this past game, so they're starting to click with all their players. I think even Laporta was playing strong. He had a few receptions, might have had a touchdown, but we're not high on the Titans. We haven't been all year, and so it's going to be a very one-sided game here. That over-under, man, I bet the Lions score 45 themselves.
You and I are on the same page there. We didn't talk about this earlier, promise. Even though Detroit is 11.5-point favorites in this one, I would take the over on that, or I would take Detroit even with that. I think Detroit wins by a solid double-digit score, whether it's 14, 17. I just don't see the offense outside of Pollard that's going to be coming out of Tennessee. You can single cover Ridley now, or double cover Ridley. Not that you would need to, because he hasn't been catching anything anyway. I'm just not sure who they're throwing the ball to in Tennessee at this point. Ridley can't seem to catch anything, can't seem to get open. Okonkwo is their tight end. He's probably their second best wide receiver. The Lions just have way too many weapons. It doesn't matter what running back you put in. You could put in Gibbs. You could put in Montgomery. Obviously, they're going to switch those guys up. I still like Detroit by probably closer to 15 points, 14, 15. And I'll even take the over on that one, the over of 45, because I don't think the Lions score under 37 points by themselves. So lopsided game this week. If you're looking for a team to get throttled or watch your team really get beat up, go for that one.
Yeah, easy call there.
Moving on to the next, one of my faves. We've got the Baltimore Ravens 5-2 going into Cleveland, and the storylines behind each one of these teams. Obviously, you had Baltimore the other night, earlier in the week. They were both 4-2, took on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and made a great game of that one after falling down 10 points. Ferociously came back. That offense is just on fire at this point. going up against a team whose offense is now in shambles. They did get Nick Chubb back, but they lost Deshaun Watson. DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, also got hurt in that game, and it looks like Jameis Winston is going to be their starting quarterback, which, in all honesty, I think is more favorable to the Cleveland Browns at this point, seeing as how Winston has not been very good at all this year, hasn't thrown for over 300 yards. You've got Winston, who likes to chuck the ball around, and guess what? You're playing the worst pass defense in the NFL this week, so he should actually put up some pretty decent stats in this one. But not where the Browns expected to be at 1-6, facing the Ravens, who are tied for first place in that division with the Steelers at 5-2.
Yeah, Ravens are on a solid streak right now. Definitely where they should be. They're clicking, they're firing. Lamar Jackson is just dynamite on the field, as we expected, as probably all of America expected from him this year. So they'll be good. They've got their wide receivers. They've got their running back. They'll be just fine. As far as the Browns here, you've got, I did see, I don't know who it was that does the picks for the week, and it's sort of like the Browns are solid when Jameis Winston is behind the snap. So that's really who they've got here. And I was going to agree. He just likes to throw the ball up. He's got the Hail Mary. If some guy's open and he hits it and Baltimore Ravens safety gets caught sleeping, there could be some touchdowns in Cleveland's favor here. So, I've got Baltimore. It'll be a no-brainer for me to pick them in this matchup, but, something could happen. Browns will get frisky.
Yeah, and I tell you what, I've got the Ravens in this one too, even with the 8.5-point favorite for Baltimore and the over-under at 44.5. I just don't know how. Again, it's almost like the Lions game that we were just talking about. The Ravens can put up 40 points by themselves easily. They did against Tampa Bay. They have been for the last couple of weeks. They're on a 5-game winning streak. I think that the Browns will be able to put up some points as well, because the two safeties for Baltimore, Marcus Williams, Eddie Jackson, they're just not getting it done. They are two of the worst ranked safeties, PFF-wise, in the NFL. So teams are going to be looking to pass all over them, whether that's going to be Jerry Jeudy or Tillman or David Njoku they got back. I think it'll be a decent game. Ravens will probably go into the fourth quarter again with a gigantic lead, blow half of it, but still be a 9 or 10-point winner in this one over the Browns in Cleveland.
Yeah, and goodness, I need Jerry Jeudy to wake up this right now. It's been bad. He's been in my flex and just awful.
I'll bet he has the game of his year coming up this week. So far. I mean, if you think about it, you got Amari Cooper. He's not there anymore. If you got Jameis Winston in there, he's not afraid to throw it in the tight spots. So Jerry Jeudy is going to be probably one of his biggest, guys that he's going to be throwing to. I expect a big game out of Jeudy this week.
Let's go.
Yeah. Next game, we've got another kind of lopsided one here. Green Bay Packers, who are 5-2, trying to keep up with the Vikings and the Lions in that division. Going to Jacksonville, who has won recently, but they're still 2-5. The spread on this one is Green Bay by 4 with an over-under of 49. No real big storylines coming out of either one of these teams. The Jacksonville Jaguars seem to be waking up a little bit. Green Bay Packers wide receivers are getting healthy again. Although I did see that Reed was questionable today, but they got Christian Watson back. So who knows what's going on there. But this should be a pretty easy one. Who do you got in this one, Nick?
I'm going to go Green Bay. It's, following the Vegas odds here. The Green Bay at least has been playing all right. They had an awful thrashing a couple weeks ago at home. So if they're on the road here, the Jaguars have not been solid. So let's see what happens. I think Jordan Love is going to be able to bounce back here strong. What is this, his second week back?
I believe second or third.
Second
or
so
third, yeah.
He's coming back. He's going to be feeling strong, I think, and it'll be not a problem for them.
All right. Well, we've got a live update here. Kyren Williams just caught a pass from Stafford, and the Rams tie up the Minnesota Vikings at 7 apiece. This is going to be a good game so far tonight. 9 plays, 70 yards on that drive. Took 4 minutes. Good stuff.
There we go. Love the live update.
Yeah. But talking about this team, you got running back issues right now. You don't know who's going to start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. ETN is obviously, he's a great running back. He's a little banged up. Not that that should matter too much. You still got Bigsby. Dernis Johnson gets in there every once in a while. It's just really the quarterback play for me with Trevor Lawrence. I do like Green Bay in this one as well. I don't think this is going to be a very high scoring game, though. I'm going to take the under on 49. 49 is, I believe, the highest over under for the week. So I'm going to take Green Bay and the under on this one. I think they beat Jacksonville pretty handedly, and in the fourth quarter, they're just going to run the ball with Josh Jacobs and not have to worry too much of a threat coming out of Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence.
I agree. I'm having battery issues here. Just make sure we don't lose connection. Be good.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah, let's keep rolling. We're good.
All right, moving on to the next one here. This is going to be a fun game. So we've got the Atlanta Falcons at the Tampa Bay Bucks. A couple of big storylines here with each one of these teams. They're both 4-3, obviously, at the top of their division there in the NFC South. You've got Atlanta, who Kirk Cousins played so bad last week that they actually took him out and they put in Michael Penix Jr. And then you've got Tampa Bay, who we mentioned before, played the Baltimore Ravens. And in losing in that game, Mike Evans ended up leaving that game in the first half with a badly sprained hamstring. And then you had Chris Godwin, who is inevitably done for the season with a broken or dislocated ankle, leg, that area. It was so bad that they couldn't show it twice, but you could see if you were watching the game, his foot did not look like it was connected to his leg when he was on the ground, which was pretty bad. I'm not making light of it. I'm just, giving you kind of the accurate depiction of what that actually looked like. In this game, so we've got Atlanta going to Tampa Bay. Atlanta's favored by 2.5 with an over-under of 46. And how do you see each one of these teams bouncing back from a loss last week?
Yeah, I'd say Kirk Cousins has that veteran ability where he could bounce back after something that happened the week before. The losses of the receiving core for Tampa Bay will be tough for a quarterback like Baker Mayfield. Do they have that rapport and connection with the backup receivers there? They could certainly pull it off. The Buccaneers were certainly kind of like a Cinderella, in my opinion, this year. I was very impressed with how they've been playing. After that loss last week, certainly was heartbreaking. But when you lose, your core team like that, it makes it tough to pull out a win. So I'm gonna go Buccaneers on this one, just from the way that they had been playing. It doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with that. Like I said, I think Kirk Cousins has that veteran ability to certainly bounce back and turn something around in that regard.
Yeah, what I've got in this one, I've got Tampa Bay as well. I'm not a fan of the spread, Atlanta 2.5. I think this is going to be a close game, and it could be 2 or 3 points either way. If Atlanta won by 1 or 2 points, I wouldn't be surprised by it. But I think Tampa Bay has enough resources at running back with Rachaad White and Bucky Irving and even Sean Taylor to where not only are they going to be able to run the ball very well against Atlanta, but they were passing very well out of the backfield, or at least Baker Mayfield was. I think the big question is going to be, is Jalen McMillan going to be able to step up with Trey Palmer and Sterling Shepard? Certainly they've got some experience there. They've got a young talent with Jalen McMillan, who was their number 3. I think he can step into that number 1 role as well. And I think this boosts Cade Otton quite a bit too, in that department of being a receiver. So I like Tampa Bay in here. I think Baker Mayfield doesn't, lose a beat. I think they're just a better defensive team to be able to shut down Atlanta. Although Atlanta seemed to be kind of accruing this running game a little bit better with Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. Their wide receivers, Drake London, has been like a top 5. I think he's top 5 in fantasy points right now for wide receivers. Obviously, they've got Mooney, they've got Kyle Pitts, so they've got a great offense as well. But in this one, I think the defenses are going to shine a little bit more. I think the Buccaneers take this one in a close one, probably somewhere around, I'd go 21-23, something like that.
Ooh, okay. I was going to say 31-28.
Yeah. You're going high then.
Let's see it.
All right. All right, next game up, this is going to be a fun one. So a rematch from week 1. We've got the Indianapolis Colts traveling to the Houston Texans. Houston, in my opinion, been playing much better despite losing to Green Bay last week. And, CJ Stroud not looking as sharp as what you would hope he would look, even without Nico to throw the ball to. He's got his backfield is back. But now you've got the Indianapolis Colts, who I'm actually shocked that they're 4-3 at this point. Semi-shocked. I mean, Flacco took 2 of those wins for himself. Now they're putting Anthony Richardson back in. So how is that offense, going to produce against a high-scoring offense like the Houston Texans? And can they bounce back from getting beat by him in Week 1 in Indianapolis?
Yeah. Houston's have been one of those teams that was playing very well. We were certainly surprised as far as the fact that the Colts have a winning record is kind of a shock with the way that we've kind of been running these prediction matchups. A matchup on Week 1, I think Houston took Week 1. So, now they're at home. They'll have that confidence. I think they can pull it off. They are down Nico Collins. So, that'll be tough, but they've got other receivers to certainly pick up the slack. Tank Dell, who's their tight end? Is that Jawan? But either way, they'll be just fine. I think this will be a comfortable win for Houston, and Anthony Richardson. Certainly he would like a redo at this, but I don't think he pulls it out.
Yeah, you're talking about Dalton Schultz, tight end for Houston.
Schultz, yeah.
Yep.
Where is it? Jawan Johnson. Where is he? Saints.
Yeah. Yep. I think he is in New Orleans.
That's what I was thinking of.
So Indianapolis, not only are they going to start AR, but they've got Jonathan Taylor back in the backfield as well. So that's going to be a big boost. And I was actually shocked to see that if the playoffs started after last week, Indianapolis would have the number 6 seed in the playoffs. And again, that just doesn't seem right to me.
No, this is a shocking winning record right here that they have.
What do you think? And I know there's been I've seen Indianapolis Colts fans online, and there's a lot of debate of, hey, you can't keep Flacco in there even though he's winning. You got to put your quarterback of the future in there, even if it means that you're going to lose, which I find a very difficult philosophy of, if you've got a quarterback in there right now that's not the future, you win now and you maybe win later with Anthony Richardson, or you maybe win now, or chances are you lose now with Anthony Richardson and you maybe win later on. Just kind of odd to me.
Yeah, I play devil's advocate. I can see both sides. The one scenario where I kind of paints the perfect picture of go with the win is the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl championship. You go with Nick Foles, even though Carson Wentz was their franchise quarterback. You take the chance, you take the moment to listen, let's see big picture here. We can win this year. That'll mean more to the franchise than building up the quarterback. Did they already see that Carson Wentz wasn't going to be their franchise quarterback and, kind of wanted to just take a breather, take a step back and put someone in that had at least played before? Now, I could see the side where you have your rookie quarterback, your franchise quarterback, Anthony Richardson. You want to give him the opportunities to fill in the shoes, step up and make the, take the growth that's coming, but perhaps have him sit and observe and learn and groom him, learn from a guy that is a Super Bowl championship caliber quarterback. If he can't learn from that, then he certainly doesn't belong in that role to begin with. So I can see that, but that's a tough pick. It really is. When you pay him a lot of money, why are you not playing him? Why are you not starting him?
Yeah, good call. I can understand that. In this one, I do have the Colts. I don't like the 5 by Houston. If it was something 2 or 3, okay, fine. But I'm playing the spread again. I think this is going to be another really close game. And like I said, if they just give the ball to Jonathan Taylor, they should be fine offensively without Nico Collins being present with the Houston Texans, especially after last week's performance by CJ Stroud. If there's just something off there, Stephon Diggs barely did anything. So that offense is a little shaky at this point. But so on each side, I'm going to take the under of 45.5, but I'm also going to take Indy because it wouldn't surprise me if Houston only pulls this out by 3.
Okay.
Field goal at the end by Fairbairn, one of the better kickers in the NFL this year.
That's a fact.
All right, moving on to the next one. We've got another interesting matchup. The Philadelphia Eagles, who are 4-2, going to Cincinnati to play the Bengals, who are 3-4, and they are bouncing back nicely after their horrendous, I couldn't think of the word, just terrible start to the season. And Cincy is actually favored in this one by 2.5 with an over-under of 48.
Yeah, that is surprising. You couldn't think of the word because if you don't have anything nice to say, you're not supposed to say anything at all. There certainly isn't any positive to how they played at the beginning of the season. If anything, it was just sort of a wake-up call for them to start figuring it out, because does that mean the end for Joe Burrow as quarterback? What are they going to do with their team? Jamar Chase has certainly been back activated, paying his dues, getting in the end zone. But yeah, it was atrocious. And perhaps for playing against Carolina and him beating Andy Dalton, maybe that was the moment that it's like, all right, let's start playing football here. Right. But it certainly did trigger something, and they are winning. Philadelphia has kind of been meh. Like, they won in Brazil against looked like a strong Green Bay team, but that was the only game that you can really handedly say that they should have won that. But can you rely on the tush push forever?
And I'll back you up on that one. Philadelphia, I feel like they're still trying to find their identity, and I say that not very often, but I do say it quite a bit. With AJ Brown being out and then Devonta Williams being out, they had to go to some other people. You thought that they were going to lean a little bit more on Saquon Barkley, but then in the beginning of the games where you thought that they were going to be run heavy, they were pass heavy, and Saquon wasn't getting the ball until the second half. And then you got this really weird behavior by Nick Sirianni, who's basically mocking and trying to start verbal arguments with his own fans in Philadelphia. I just don't like him at all. I don't understand what he's doing there as a coach. I feel like they should be better than 4-2 at this point. So I'm going to go with Philadelphia in this one, seeing as how Cincinnati is favored by 2.5. I'll take those 2 extra points and say Philly comes out with the win on this one. They didn't look like the offensive juggernaut that they should have last week with all of their pieces being back. Cincinnati's defense is not good. I think if this was ever a week where you could really oil up your offense and get it going full steam ahead, this would have to be it for Sirianni. This has to be their win. And even though they're 3-4, they've come back and they've won a few games. I'm still a little shaky on that Cincinnati Bengals team.
Yeah, I like those points you made. It's almost like Joe Burrow has won 3 games and the Cincinnati defense has lost 4 games for them. So yeah, that'll play a huge part.
Absolutely. And now they're up against a good offense again. So,
by all intents and purposes, the Eagles should be an offensive juggernaut. And, the point you made that they are uncertain with their identity. It's almost kind of like what's going on back of the house. Are we a run team? Are we a pass team? Is our coach crazy? It's hard to say. So,
yeah. The one thing that I am almost certain on, though, is that this is going to be an over 48 game. I'm looking at closer to 60 points because both of these offenses, I mean, you look at it, we talked about what the Eagles had. The Bengals, obviously, they've got Jamar Chase, they've got T. Higgins, they've got Chase Brown, they've got Zach Moss. They've got weapons too, right? So 2 of the better quarterbacks, you could say probably top 6 or 7 quarterbacks in the league, Jalen Hurts and Joe Burrow fall into there. Should be a lot of fireworks in this one.
Yeah, I agree with all that right there. Definitely a high-scoring game.
Beautiful. If you've got any players on these teams, play them all.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next. We get to find out what the Miami thing is all about here. We've got the Arizona Cardinals, who've been kind of flopping around at 3-4, and then the Miami Dolphins at 2-4. Is Tua coming back? Is he not coming back? What's going on with the Miami Dolphins team being so lax and laughing and having a good time? It almost reminds me of, if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, and Billy Bean, the character Billy Bean, he's a real life person, but he goes in the locker room, they're all listening to music and the party, and they're on the tables dancing, and he hits the radio with a baseball bat. And he asks, "Is losing fun?" He said, "No." He says, "Well, then why are you having fun?" And I feel like that's kind of the thing that should be having that should be the discussion on the sideline in Miami. But instead, you've got Tyreek Hill and they're laughing on the sideline, and Mike McDaniels is there, and it's like you guys are getting your asses kicked. What is the problem here? So what's going on in Miami?
Yeah, great points in there for me to make some interesting segues. So yeah, it's certainly you want to have your team to have fun. They want to be out there wanting to play rather than showing up for a paycheck, because that's when you just sort of lose all hope, all heart in the game that you're playing. I do think the Miami Hurricanes win this weekend. They certainly will have an easy time doing it against a 1-6 Florida State team, but perhaps the Dolphins will activate the Miami Hurricanes starting lineup, and they can play against the Arizona Cardinals, and they would certainly win this game here. But there are 2 games in Miami this weekend, so the Hurricanes can only fill out one roster for Saturday, so they're gonna need some rest before they play on Sunday. But yeah, no, to your point, again, another point, like the Hurricanes back in the day, they, if you love those ESPN documentaries, the 30 for 30s, Jimmy Johnson would say, hey, I want you guys out there having fun, being yourselves, and you'd see that swagger that the Miami Hurricanes have. That was them loving the game of football and being themselves. You can certainly do that, but you got to win. If you're out there joking around and not taking the game seriously, you're just out there to smile for the camera, then you're kind of not really a football player. You're a celebrity at that point. So are they here to play a football game? That's the question you got to ask. Like I said, Hurricanes will win this weekend, but I think Arizona Cardinals will beat the Dolphins in this matchup.
All right. Love those takes, by the way. That was perfect. Couldn't have agreed with you anymore on that one. We've got very different takes, but I can appreciate and respect your opinions on the sideline there. I'm going to go with Miami on this one. I think this is going to be a close one as well. Arizona has not impressed me lately. I'm not sure what's going on with Marvin Harrison Jr. I understand that, he had the concussion. He was out. Not seeing what I thought we were going to see from Kyler Murray this year. And the questions have to start to arise as far as what kind of quarterback is Kyler Murray going to be? Is he going to be the kind of quarterback that can lead us to a winning record? So far, he has not. He hasn't gotten them to the playoffs. He hasn't done much for them. So when you've got wide receivers that unfortunately go down, or maybe you just don't have a roster of wide receivers, you got to be able to manage and you got to be able to win those games. And it's not like they don't have a good running game in Arizona either. In this situation, though, I keep on, and I'm banging this drum. I did it last week, and I think I did it the week before too, with the weapons that Miami's getting back. They've got Devin Achane back now. They still have Tyreek Hill. They still have Waddle. They still have Jonnu Smith at tight end, who did phenomenal last weekend. A guy who I want to say it's about time, because even last year when he was tight end number 2 in Atlanta, he was putting up tight end 1 numbers. So I'm not sure why they weren't using him that much. I'll stand on this hill until maybe it happens. I think Miami comes out, and even if they're doing short passes to guys like Tyreek Hill or Achane out of the backfield or whoever, they're fast enough to where they can outrun the other guys on the field. So they really should be able to surpass that 3.5 over Arizona and hit that over mark. It's not like Arizona's a bad team. They've got a good offense. They just have struggles for whatever reason in the play calling. I think they go over that 46 and Miami wins.
They're very capable. But I'll stick with my pick, and let's see what happens.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Neither one of us has a crystal ball. Just go with your gut.
Yeah.
All right. This is going to be a fun game as well. We've got AFC versus NFC, 2 of the better teams in each one of those conferences. The Buffalo Bills 5-2, who just got Amari Cooper. So they are bolstering their roster as well. Going to Seattle, going all the way across the U.S. to your neck of the woods, Nick. On the West Coast there, going to play the Seattle Seahawks. Buffalo favored, even though they're going to Seattle. Buffalo favored by 3 in a game that should have a lot of high scoring as well. 47 points projected in that one. What do you see happening here?
Ultimately, I see a Bills victory, but they certainly have not been comfortable in their wins. It's been very close, been very second half wins for them. The Seattle Seahawks were off to a 4-0 start and have since been losing, but they are capable. They have West Virginia quarterback, Geno Smith. He's certainly a strong quarterback. They have the guy with 3 names. I can't even think of it, but Kenneth Walker the third.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
There it is. Yeah, I knew I would mispronounce it even if I remembered it. But they have talent back there, so it won't be an easy win for the Bills. So, but the Bills have been juggernauts and have been in the playoffs for the past several seasons. So they are a veteran team.
Yeah. Got a couple of question marks on Seattle sideline with DK Metcalf and Kenneth Walker a little bit banged up, not practicing earlier this week. But I still like Seattle in this one. There's something that's just a little bit off. There's a couple of secondary wide receivers for Buffalo, Mac Hollins and Curtis Samuel, I think are questionable to play as well going into this week. I do like the under on this one. And if Seattle's defense can step up and kind of hold Josh Allen in check, I don't think that they make that 47. And if you're going to spot Seattle 3 at home, I'm going to take that every day almost. So I do like Seattle in this one. I think Geno Smith is playing better than what he's being recognized for. And that's part of it. You kind of mentioned it to the point where Josh Allen, everybody knows him. You're going to throw him in the top 3 quarterbacks, that's playing the game right now. But Geno is right up there as well. He's got to be considered, again, 7-8. He's got a lot of weapons out there. So even if DK is questionable, you still do have Tyler Lockett and JSN. You still have a viable backup at running back with Zach Charbonnet. And, he proved what his worth was in the beginning of the year as well. So I do like Mike McDonald's defense in there. I think he's going to have a plan against Buffalo like he did last year when he was the Ravens defensive coordinator to go ahead and shut those guys down. Moving on to the next one. This is semi-fun, maybe boring. A lot of different injuries on this one. The Saints 2-5 going to the Los Angeles Chargers. LA projected to win. They're giving them 7.5 points at home with an over-under of 41. So, somebody's expecting like a 21-14 type of game here, I guess, at best. And I can't say that I blame them. The Chargers like to run the ball. That's primarily what Jim Harbaugh does. And the Saints just don't really have anybody at this point in time. I think Chris Olave is still questionable. Derek Carr is questionable. So I can understand, even if they had those guys playing in there, how well are they going to gel after not being together for the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, certainly a big question mark after, when we did week 2 predictions. We would have easily said the Saints would have scored 41 points alone, but they're on a, five loss.
5-game losing streak after putting up almost 50 points in the first 2 games.
Yeah, it's kind of unbelievable what has happened. There's been, I was certainly surprised after those first 2 weeks, and thought maybe the Saints were kind of the Cinderella team, but they've kind of turned back to what we probably expected at the beginning of the season. Kind of just strange what happened. And the Chargers, Harbaugh's stepping up to the next level. This is not his first time in the NFL, but it's certainly questionable as far as where he's taken the Chargers. 3-3, I'd say they easily win this game just because the Saints really just don't have it together at the moment. And yeah, that's really all I got for that.
Yeah, a lot of question marks on both sides of the ball. The entire Saints, I say 75% of the Saints offense is listed as questionable for this game coming up, even their offensive line. And when it comes to the Los Angeles Chargers, their best 2 wide receivers, Joshua Palmer hasn't done much, but Quentin Johnson and Ladd McConkey, as well as their starting tight end, Will Dissly, are all questionable to play this week as well. Which to me, you would probably think, well, I'm going to go for the under on that one on 41. I think they still break out on this one. Something weird is going to happen. This is my something weird is going to happen in this game this week. The Chargers, for the first few weeks here, they haven't put up a lot of points. They've been pretty methodical with their run game. The Saints have been kind of up and down, even with whoever they're going to start at quarterback. I think something really weird is going to happen in this one. I like the Chargers a lot. I don't know what it is. If it's going to be Herbert that, comes out and throws for 350 yards to some no-name wide receivers, I'm not sure what it is. But I do like the Chargers at home. I will take the spread of over 7.5. I would say probably closer to 10 on this one, which is how I think they're going to hit the over. I think it's going to be something closer to 24-14, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, you certainly get that feeling too. Something weird can happen. It's kind of hard to put your finger on, but both of these teams are capable of having high scoring games. And, if you have that gut feeling that weird, Halloween's around the corner. So something
Right.
magical could happen.
Yep. They're going to break out the voodoo witch doctor stuff in New Orleans early.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So here's another fun one. And this is a fun one because you've got the number 1 overall draft pick versus the number 2 overall draft pick. We've got the Chicago Bears coming off of a bye at 4-2, going to Washington against Jaden Daniels, who may or may not play this week. And that would be super disappointing if he doesn't play. He's still nursing. I think it was an oblique, something like that. With the Commanders, I almost said Redskins, with the Commanders at 5-2. This one, they're giving it to Chicago, 2.5 point spread with an over under, which I think is kind of low at 43.
Yeah. Just sort of thinking on it, did you say Jaden Daniels is questionable this week?
Yeah, I was actually just looking it up to see what that was and if they changed it.
They had someone else behind the snap last week, did they not?
They did. They had Marcus Mariota back there, and Jaden Daniels is still listed as questionable as of a few hours ago. His ribs officially did not practice today. So they've got Marcus Mariota, and he played admirably last week. I keep using that word. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
But he played very well, 18-23, 205 yards, completed 78% of his passes, and threw 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he played well enough to win the game. And let's not forget, Mariota has been around for a while. So he's not he's not some new young kid like Will Levis or Malik Willis or one of these other guys. He can throw the ball around, and in that system, that new system in Washington, he did very well last week. So the Bears have a little bit better defense than the Carolina Panthers do. So, maybe last week will seem like preseason to him, and now he's getting into the regular season, but it is a home game for them. So, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounded like the Vikings might have just scored, unfortunately, but I do think that Mariota has been around. He's bounced around, had trouble landing a spot on a team, but he, like you said, he did win. The Bears do have a strong defense, so it will be tough for him. And if Jaden Daniels does make a comeback, then that could be a confident win for the Commanders.
Yeah. No, live update. The Vikings did not score. My wife has Cooper Kupp on her fantasy team, and he just caught a what looked to be a 7-yard or 8-yard touchdown pass from Stafford. So his second of the game. So if this is an audition, good job, man. You've got 2 touchdown passes so far in this game, and now it is 14-all.
There we go.
So this is really a great game right now. But yeah, they're just about to tie it up with 10 minutes left in the second quarter. Kick is up. It's good. It's a tie game, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go.
All right.
It's back to this. I don't watch,
Yeah. Well, you know what? I guess we'll see. We should be done by halftime.
Yeah.
So I do like Washington in this game. My hope is that Jaden Daniels does play. And if Jaden Daniels does play, I think he is a better quarterback than the Chicago Bears quarterback, Caleb Williams. I think he should have gone number 1. Time will tell if I am right on that one or not. But I also see the Chicago Bears at a very fictitious 4-2. And I call it a fictitious 4-2 because they have had the easiest strength of schedule out of any team in the NFL based on opponents that they have played through 7 weeks. Whereas Washington has had one of the harder schedules played, and they've beaten some of those teams, and they've only lost to really good teams like Baltimore. So I think Washington just comes into this game a little bit better team than Chicago does. And I think what you're going to see, if you can picture a Bears head on the Titanic, I think the Bears schedule coming up is just so bad. It's so hard. I think it's the hardest schedule out of any remaining team, again, based on current win-loss percentages, out of anyone in the NFL. And they're going to fall out of that race in the NFC North here pretty quick. I think they're just going to end up crumbling. The easy part of their schedule is over. Now it's going to be hard. So I will take Washington. I am going to take the under on that game, though, even though it's only at 43 points. I think they need to keep it close in order to pull that one off.
Yeah, I like the under on that, and we'll agree with the Commanders pick. Not to linger on this too long, but is it possible that they had a light schedule early on to sort of warm up? Caleb to the NFL, and
Sure.
now he can sort of he's got a feel for it. He certainly has, he has a winning record, so he certainly is capable of pulling out a win against the tougher teams and playing at NFL level capacity.
You could
So,
certainly, yeah, absolutely. I'm going to go with you 100% on that one. You could certainly make that argument. And I think the schedule makers definitely favored a couple of teams here. And I'll throw the Kansas City Chiefs out being another one. Obviously, they open up with Baltimore. They've got 10 days to prepare for Cincinnati. They come off their bye week to play San Francisco. So a lot of their hard teams are, teams that were very good last year. Yeah, I think some teams just get a very favorable schedule. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm just looking into it, but I think that is something with Caleb Williams where it's like, hey, kid's going to need a little bit of time to get acclimated to the pro game. Maybe that is. I would definitely. I'm glad somebody else sees it.
There's something to be said for it, for sure.
There is. Sure. Absolutely. All right, let's get into the next one. We've got the Carolina Panthers, who are absolutely horrible for the third year in a row, 1-6. Going into Denver, who has actually surprised me quite a bit this year. Denver is 4-3. They are keeping their heads in that race. I figured the Los Angeles Chargers would be the guys giving the Kansas City Chiefs a little bit of pressure from behind there. But it actually is the Denver Broncos who Bo Nix is playing well. He started off with a little bit of struggle, but he's starting to hook up a little bit more with his compadre there from Oregon. They were both drafted this last year, Troy Franklin. Their running game, Javonte Williams, is back from that knee injury after a year and a half or more. So he's starting to show his true colors, which, now you've got Denver favored by 10.5 in a game where they only think 41.5 points are going to be scored. So maybe they're thinking like a shutout, 35-0 or something. Who knows? But I think we both have the same thing going on here, but what are your takes on this game?
Yeah, I've certainly got Denver as the victor. These two teams have been lackluster. Bo Nix has come alive. It's his rookie season, first year, so he can work off the jitters, and he certainly has started to settle in. The only thing that could bring the Panthers back is to resurrect Ron Rivera, and I think the ownership will not bite that bullet on that, and it'll be tough for the Panthers to pull this off. Man, a 35-0 game would be something to watch, and it's not that far-fetched the way the Panthers have been playing.
It's not that far-fetched, especially because they're going to be starting Bryce Young again this week and not the Red Rocket, Andy Dalton. So I think, him not being in there for the last few weeks, and now they're seeing that, maybe Andy Dalton isn't it either. They've got some guys, their season, Carolina is one of the teams that their season's pretty much over at this point. I would not be surprised if they ended up selling off Jadeveon Clowney. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded off Adam Thielen once he gets off officially the IR, or even Deontay Johnson. Man, what a mess in Carolina. I mean, third year in a row, you gave up the boat to get that number 1 draft pick, and it's going to haunt you for the next decade. I mean, it's really going to take a lot for these guys to get out of this hole.
Yep. It's a tough road for them for sure. Don't know what to say for them, but I got the Broncos on this.
Absolutely. Not going to beat a dead Panther, but I am taking the Broncos on this one with the spread of 10.5, and I will take the over because, again, I think with Bo Nix, even in his first year versus Bryce Young in his second year, I'll take Bo Nix any day of the week. And I think they surpassed that 41. I think it's relatively low, especially because I think Denver's going to end up scoring close to 30. So if not more, 30 or more. So I got Denver and the over. Next up, what a beautiful game. Kansas City Chiefs, the last undefeated team in the NFL, going against division rivals, Las Vegas Raiders, who have plenty of issues on their own. Aiden O'Connell broke his hand, broke his thumb, something like that. Gardner Minshew came in and played like garbage last week. They go out and they get Desmond Ridder, who's no better than either one of those guys. And it's fallen apart in Las Vegas pretty quick for a team that had a lot of high hopes. They sure are proving us correct with the fact that, maybe Pierce isn't the guy at head coach. Maybe he shouldn't have been given, that kind of authority in that organization. He can definitely get people rallied up, but now you got no more Devontae Adams. Your weapons are outside of Brock Bowers aren't good. Your number 1 running back is probably your second best running back on your team behind Alexander Madison. So Kansas City by 9.5, and what they project to be another low-scoring game, even though Kansas City is getting a weapon in DeAndre Hopkins this week.
Yeah, I think it'll take some time for Hopkins to learn the playbook, but he isn't a huge boost to their offense. Kareem Hunt has settled back into his old team. They've certainly been playing very well, but early on, surprisingly, very low scoring from the Chiefs, especially considering how their season has been set up. So I'm going to go a little different than everyone else. I'm going to say the Raiders will. No, I'm just kidding. I got the Chiefs on this, but. One thing I do want to add, the fact that they traded away Devontae Adams, we brought this up on the last predictions episode, and certainly Hollywood can paint a picture a specific way, but the way that the team sort of really rallied around Coach Pierce in the interim, there was a lot of positivity, and even Devontae was spitting positivity, but I sort of had this weird feeling the entire time getting to know Devontae, because we don't even know the real Devontae Adams, but I'm going to go with this guy is toxic. He was certainly spoiled in Green Bay, having Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback who could certainly, hit him on a dime where he needed to be on his routes. But Aaron Rodgers certainly also is no stranger to, to press, but kind of seeing the way Devontae demanded a trade, didn't want to be there, going with the flow, saying he's
maybe
excited.
Had a hamstring injury.
Yeah, it didn't. Watching that show and watching Devontae's episodes, and I don't dislike you at all, Devontae. In the off chance that you're watching this and you think I hate you, it just seemed like you weren't happy there, and that's really all I had to say. If he's traded away, will the Raiders certainly sort of will the air be a little bit different, a lot of pressure removed? They can take a fresh breath. Coach Pierce can sort of settle in and figure out the roster that he has and no longer cater to a star athlete like Devontae Adams. He can start thinking realistically with the team that he has. But time will tell. Yeah. But that's just a thought I had this past week after all of the trade moves going on for him.
And off the top of my head, I don't recall what happened in Green Bay with Devontae Adams. If he had requested a trade out of Green Bay to go play with Derek Carr again, who he played with in college. Do you recall what happened there in Green Bay, to who requested what, or if they just said, you know what, we're going to send you off to Las Vegas because, maybe it was the other diva. Maybe it was Aaron Rodgers that, couldn't stand his crap anymore. I know that was certainly the case in Minnesota many years ago when it was Dante Culpepper and Randy Moss. And they decided to trade Randy Moss to the Las Vegas Raiders because Dante Culpepper was tired of putting up with his diva crap.
Yeah. The only thing that I know is from that show again, and I do recall something along, he really did like playing with Derek Carr, and he was really sad when they traded Derek Carr away, or weren't going to start him. There were certainly vibes about that. And I kind of recall something, he was looking to get a fresh new start after there was a switch up in Green Bay and he landed in Las Vegas. But, if that's the case, that's kind of credence. Maybe that's why I got this vibe, credence to the point that he's just really not happy where he's been and just kind of needs, he can certainly settle in, but just sort of weird vibes about it all.
Yeah, I hear you. Looking at the wide receivers, the injury list for wide receivers in Kansas City, you could make an entire roster out of this. Rashee Rice on the IR, Sky Moore on the IR, Hollywood Brown on the IR, Juju Smith is questionable. I mean, that right there is like there's 4 wide receivers for you could just plug in. So, but they'll have DeAndre Hopkins, they'll have Xavier Worthy, they got Julian Watson, Marcole Holman. I'm still going with Kansas City. I will take that 9.5. I think Kansas City wins by 14. They don't have to do much. They haven't been a high-scoring offense. Patrick Mahomes has not been a dynamic quarterback this year. Arguably, maybe top 10 quarterback if you're looking at statistics. Yes, he's the leader of the offense. Yes, I understand he has 3 Super Bowl rings, but if you look at what he has done statistically, his touchdown to interception ratio is not good. I get it, the wide receiver stuff. I get it, the constant carousel at running back, but the team is still going to get it done. Would I love to see the Raiders win? Absolutely. Nothing would make me happier this weekend. But odds-on favor is Kansas City, and I take them plus the 9.5 points.
Easily.
All right, next one. We are on to Sunday Night Football. This is going to be an old-fashioned, good old NFC matchup. Dallas Cowboys, who are 3-3, and they are coming off a bye, going to San Francisco, who's 3-4 and been up and down all year. San Fran currently favored by 4.5 with an over-under of 46, which honestly is kind of surprising to me.
Yeah. Well, to start the season, both these teams, very well could have been 6-0 and 7-0 right here where they are. They haven't been playing. Neither have been playing like themselves, though debatably, I've never been high on Dak Prescott and their team over in Dallas. Last week's game certainly was, proof in the pudding there. But I've got San Fran on this. They both are strong teams when they want to be, but they have not wanted to be lately. And George Kittle has let me down on my fantasy roster. Is it a Kittle problem? I know he's injured this week, just more questionable. Hopefully he gets the start, but they've just kind of been, both teams have been very wishy-washy and up and down, like you said.
Yeah, like I said, Dallas coming off the bye week here. Everybody is pretty much healthy on their team. You've got San Fran on the other hand. You've got Jordan Mason's questionable. Debo is questionable.
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings is questionable. You mentioned Kittle is questionable with a foot. So that whole team is questionable, which is why I said it's kind of surprising. San Fran by 4.5. Dallas has had a whole 2 weeks to prepare for him. And the over-under 46 is kind of surprising as well. But I'm still going with San Fran. I still think that they win. I think Jerry Jones just ends up – I think he's got to get rid of the team. He's making bad football decisions. He made great football decisions maybe 20 years ago. Not making great decisions right now. I think he's too fixated on how they lost out on getting Derrick Henry, and he's probably pissed off about that. But I think Rico Dowdle, I think he steps up this week. I think he's going to get a little bit better week after week coming into this season. We'll see what happens. The Cowboys are definitely not the Cowboys I thought that they were going to be. San Fran is not the team I thought they were going to be either. But this one, I'll take San Fran plus the 4.5. But I will take the under. Neither one of these teams is really offensively explosive. If San Fran can shut down CeeDee Lamb, I don't see what Dallas does to put up more than maybe 20, 21 points. So, yeah, I'll take San Fran with the under on that one. Sunday Night Football. Should be exciting, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Sunday Night Football, two of America's teams certainly would be an exciting game to watch. And like I said, both of them very well could have been undefeated this far. So
yeah,
if they show up, it's going to be an awesome game. Absolutely.
Should be a lot of fireworks. Moving on to the Monday night game, and there's only one this week. Used to have two the last couple of weeks, but we've got a really good Monday Night Football game. 2-5 New York Giants, which is kind of surprising, at the Pittsburgh Steelers 5-2, which is even more surprising. Pittsburgh favored by 6 in this one with an over-under. I believe this one is the lowest one. So not a great firework Monday night matchup game. 36.5 on this one. I believe Malik Neighbors is coming back this week. I'm sure Mr. Jones is happy about that. Daniel Jones is happy about that in New York. And then you've got Pittsburgh. Can Russell Wilson repeat what he did last week and kind of shock everybody in Steelers Nation?
Yeah, it's nice to see, finally Russell Wilson is back, is healthy in the roster and playing. I think easily the Steelers will win this. This is kind of a rivalry matchup, if I'm not mistaken, just in past 20 years or so. You have Tomlinson, who's a good coach. He certainly is veteran and knows what he's doing against, a Giants team that, has been not terribly awful with Daniel Jones and the team that they've had. But again, it's Daniel Jones and it's the team that they have. So I will go with the Steelers on this one.
Yeah, not a lot of question marks between these teams either. Malik Neighbors isn't even listed as questionable, so he is a full-on participant, as is every pretty much starting person on the offense and defense for both teams. A couple of question marks, but nothing to be real serious about. I like Pittsburgh to win this game. I just don't like the 6. I think with Neighbors back in there, I think they keep it close. I don't think Russell Wilson is going to repeat and, throw multiple touchdowns. I think reality is going to come crashing back down to him. The Giants do have a pretty decent defense in there. And when they're all healthy and they're all playing well, you've seen what they can do. They could put together a couple of wins. But I like I think Pittsburgh still ends up winning this game. I just don't think it's going to be by 6. And I actually like the over on this one, seeing what Russell Wilson did with those components, seeing what Neighbors can do when he's thrown the ball. Last week, he didn't do a whole lot, and he kind of called it out in front of the media, called out his team and Daniel Jones, and basically said, hey, look at the tape, man. I was open. Singletary is back and he's healthy. Tyrone Tracy is a good second option there for the Giants backfield. Wan'Dale Robinson. I like Van Jefferson, wide receiver number 2 in Pittsburgh. So I think they've got a lot of great weapons. Something about Monday Night Football, it's got to be higher than 36. You got to keep America entertained. But I think at the end of the day, the Giants do end up losing that game, but winning the spread. Maybe they lose by 3 or 4 instead.
Got it. I do like the over on that for sure. I think they both can score plenty of points to beat that over spread.
Absolutely, my man. And that's it. That's the games. There's your over-unders and your spreads and all that kind of stuff. And we're set to go. It looks like you've got some Miami football to watch. How is that being on the West Coast and, trying to watch Miami games? You get up early for that?
Yeah. So I'm actually East Coast. I think, the fact that I'm a Rams fan has confused you slightly, but I am East Coast. I've never even been west of Las Vegas. So
okay.
Never even set foot in the land of Rams, but except for St. Louis when they were there. But being a Hurricanes fan in the North is tough. I get to watch the games, but it would be nice to go to a game. I did go down to the Swamp for them to thrash the Gators down there.
Yeah,
so that was nice to do this year. It's certainly been a long time since that has happened, but it is.
I suppose you and Ryan don't get along with those games, huh?
I'm gonna plead the fifth on that ride home.
Yeah. That's and he's in Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Okay.
He is, yep.
So between everybody in the league and their favorite teams, and I'm one of those too, right? It's like, okay, I'm a Baltimore Ravens fan, but I'm in Minnesota. It's like everybody's just different. I don't know, in my own little mind, I assume that everybody lives where their favorite team is. So that's what I had you confused on being on the West Coast.
Yeah, it certainly used to be that way. You'd have pride in your local team, even if they were the biggest losers in town, you certainly would cheer for the Philadelphia Eagles if you lived in Philly. And Ryan is an Eagles fan and, he was born there, but has not lived there for a long time. Just case in point, you can be from all over and like other teams. We are in an era where, I guess what it was is you'd catch the local radio or the local TV shows on live TV. And those are the games you only could see. But now we are, blessed with technology where it's at. I wouldn't say I'm a bandwagon fan. All of my teams, most of my teams that I've grown up watching, it's always been a family tradition for the sports that everyone generally watches. And then I've picked my own favorite teams and stuck with them. One of them being the Rams, and I've never set foot in California. But it is, it was tough to be a Miami Dolphins fan at the time of when I was growing up in Florida. So, but yeah, it is nice to be able to watch these games anytime, especially with NFL ticket and all that.
Oh yeah, I mean, even tonight you got the game is on Prime, and then the game is Peacock on another night, and all that kind of stuff. Thinking back to when people only had rabbit ears and they had channel 4, 5, 9, and 11, and that was it. So you usually got one NFC game and one AFC game, and one of those was a local team, so you had to cheer for them.
Yeah, times have certainly changed, and we're fortunate to have that opportunity.
Absolutely. Well, Nick, it was a pleasure. Thanks again, man. Appreciate this. It's always fun to have a Thursday night game or a Thursday night conversation about the games coming up. As always, if you guys have any questions, you can reach me. It's scrolling across the bottom there. You can get me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. I'm pretty much everywhere. And Nick, I'll let you plug yourself.
Yeah, appreciate it. Jeff and Downfield Read Team. I'm Nick, aka the Admiral with Relatively Uncharted Podcast. We are on all major platforms, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, even X. So look us up. Appreciate it. I had fun as we always do. So I love these chats and looking forward to seeing how these predictions turn out after Monday night.
Absolutely. Maybe we'll get together 2 weeks in a row finally without having any kind of interruptions with actual hurricanes and
Yeah.
all of this other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hurricane season is not over, so
All right. Good luck with your Miami teams this week. I'll be thinking about you and pulling for the Dolphins.
thank you, brother. Good luck to the Ravens.
All right. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Later.